Stephon Diggs will be out there today. I know he's been banged up. Travion Henderson, where did he land? He landed in New England. Remember him, the Ohio State running back that many of you, I think, really wanted Washington to consider late first, or if he was around in the second, which he wasn't. He was gone early in the second round. He's in New England, by the way, with our old friend, running back who was a wide receiver, drafted here. Our old friend Antonio Gibson is in New England. I actually was trying to pull his name. I'm like, Antonio Gibson? Yeah, that's it. Morgan Moses is on their team. There are a couple of former Washington players. Look, these joint practices, and Washington will hold one more before their final preseason game against the Ravens. They'll get the Bengals on Monday night, a week from Monday Night Football. Joe Burrow and company will play. In fact, they're going to play their starters in the first preseason game as well. So that'll be a good test in the preseason game if Washington goes starters for a while as well. But it's really these joint practices that end up being really more than anything the biggest reveals, if there are any reveals, from this time of year. Because you're not going one series and walking off the field with the players who are going to make your team and be on the field primarily. That's the biggest part of the head fake of preseason, is the players who are going to play in the regular season don't play much in the preseason. So how the hell do you really know what the team is going to be if they're not playing the players that are going to play when the real games begin? But in these joint practices, it's ones versus ones for a while. So it's a much better test. It's a much better look. It's better observationally for coaches and for anybody else there. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Ben a little bit later on in the show to find out how it went. I do remember in 2015, was it 2014, in Richmond when the Patriots came in with Brady and Belichick. It was embarrassing how disorganized and how behind Washington appeared to be. And yet, it was a joint practice in early August. So what was really to be learned? Well, the Patriots are the Patriots, and they were buttoned up and ready to go then. So interesting joint practice. One more with the Ravens. Remember, there was a period of time where Washington found it difficult to find anybody interested in joint practicing with them. So this is a good thing. The Patriots are going to be an interesting team. We won't see it on Friday night, obviously, in the preseason game. But they've got an interesting roster, and I'm a big fan of Vrabel. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a hell of a football coach. He brought Josh McDaniels with him. Look, Josh McDaniels has never been a head coach, but he's always been a good coordinator and a good quarterback guy. So the Patriots have an interesting couple of years to watch. If Drake May ends up being the guy, and there were some signs of it last year, this could be, one of the franchises that is resurrected from the last few years. And could be a really good franchise for years to come. May's the key, obviously, but they've got good coaching, and we'll see whether or not they're able to, pick the right players to support their young quarterback. But good work today for Washington. By the way, there are several players who did not make the trip to Foxboro. Terry McLaurin, obviously, along with Sam Cosmi. They're both on the PUP list. By the way, Marcus sent me a note the other day. I think it's our longtime listener and caller, Marcus from College Park. I think it may have been a different Marcus. And he said, you have not commented on the ankle injury for Terry. Is it real? No, this is just what they're using as sort of a, joint. Hey, he can't practice. He's holding in, so we can't fine him. We don't want to fine him. We want him here. We like Terry. We're hoping to get a deal worked out. But no, I don't think his ankle injury is going to keep him out of practice once they get a contract extension done, if they get a contract extension done. But Terry McLaurin, Sam Cosmi, Noah Brown, Jordan McGee, Brandon Coleman, Marcus Mariota, Javonte John Baptiste, all players who did not make the trip to New England. The other 83 players, right? There are 90 in camp, and I just listed 7. So the other 83 are there. So Dan Quinn spoke before the practice began just a little while ago. We'll have some of that sound for you, hopefully, within an hour or so. I wanted to read something because I think it's an interesting question. And we've asked it before, and I'll share with you what the results were before when we did it about 2.5 weeks ago. This comes from Tommy. Tommy writes, Terry and his agent made a miscalculation requesting a trade. Fan sentiment is flipping. A majority of social media posts now side with the team or speak negatively of Terry's approach. I blame his agent. Terry's not getting Metcalf's deal, and all their tactics, the 30-minute whiny press conference and trade request, all they've done is sour fan sentiment on him. Terry deserves to seek a raise, but the process has been poorly handled by his team. Holding in is fine, but after the last preseason game, Terry needs to decide whether to take the latest offer from the team or bet on himself for the 2027 offseason following a 2026 franchise tag. That's it. Stop talking publicly about this. He needs better people in his corner. That from Tommy. So, there's part of this that I agree with, and part of it I'm not sure about. And I do want to focus on whether or not fan sentiment is flipping. First of all, I don't know if there's a flip actually to be had. I'll get to that in a moment. I do think his agent, who has not necessarily had clients like Terry, and his group of clients tend to be smaller clients, some certainly name players. But this will be, I think, one of, if not the biggest deals he's ever done. I don't know if it's him. I've talked about this for a month. I started to hear, whispers about maybe Terry not getting the best advice. But, these are also things that, unless you're really in it, you don't really know. If Terry's got total trust and he's been his guy for a while, I do think that the press conference, the marathon press conference from a few weeks ago, was a terrible idea. And when I say terrible idea, not that Terry speaking publicly for the first time was a terrible idea, but it should have been more of a statement and no more than like 3 minutes of questions and then move on. That thing got sideways, and there was nobody there from the team to kind of protect him in that scenario. We talked about that when it happened. And look, with respect to Tommy's last part, yeah, I think the talking's done. He got to that last stage, trade request. The next line to cross would be to hold out when the regular season begins. Will he do that? I don't think he will. I don't think it benefits him. I don't think it increases his leverage, although, as we've discussed, it's probably the only chance of him gaining any kind of leverage financially. And that scenario would unfold with the team playing very poorly offensively, having injuries at receiver, and it becomes very clear that they need Terry McLaurin. I think we all know they need him, but how much do they need him? If he holds out, it could work against him as well, because if the offense goes out there and it's humming without him, and Deebo Samuel is lighting it up all over the field, and Noah Brown's healthy, and Luke McCaffrey comes on and gallops, beating people deep, that could work against him. But this is what I wanted to focus on as it relates to this. So about 2.5 weeks ago, we did a call segment, and more than a call segment, call segments plural. But I put out a Twitter poll, Team Terry or Team Front Office? Whose side are you on? And that was before camp started. That was before he held out and then held in and then asked for a trade. It's also before some of the reporting that, sort of now is out there with respect to what he's asked for, and maybe even some of the reporting, depending on what you believe. I mean, Stephen A. had, what Washington had offered, but there's some information as to how wide this gap is based on, some reporting, Schefter on, Terry's desire and Stephen A on Washington's offer. And I'm curious as to whether or not Tommy's right. First of all, the results 2.5 weeks ago on my Twitter poll with thousands of votes, 50-50, dead even. 50% team front office, 50% team Terry. That was surprising to me. I really, in that moment, thought it was going to be 70-30 team Terry. I really did. But I am curious to find out where it is now, because if Tommy's right, and look, a majority of social media posts, as he writes, now side with the team and speak negatively of Terry's approach. I've seen some of that. I'm not auditing it, so I'm not counting how much of it, is against Terry versus, for Terry. And, we all as adults realize that social media is a small reflection of what the overall fan base thinks. But is he right? Is fan sentiment now flipping towards the team? It was 50-50 with a rather healthy sized polling or surveying number, in the thousands. So, you give your plus or minus 3 on the survey, but it's probably pretty close, especially given that, the audience of this radio station is Washington football fans more than it is anything else. So at 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980, where are you? You don't have to tell me where you were, but if you want to, that's fine also, especially if you've switched. But are you Team Terry on this or Team Front Office? I am in the same spot that I've been really since it became clear that this was becoming, for the lack of a better description, contentious, that it wasn't going to be a smooth process. Certainly the process when Terry expressed frustration for the first time via his agent leaking to various people back in June, I guess it was, I thought it was, look, this is posturing. This is going to get worked out. We did consider all the while that in San Francisco, there's been a recent history of waiting it out and getting these deals done very late, whether it's Bosa or Kittle or Ayuk, or we're missing one or two, Trent Williams. But did Adam Peters bring that style of negotiating to Washington? But as it's gone on, it's gotten a bit more contentious, a bit uglier, with every, passing day or passing week. And now we are at a true standoff, a true stalemate. Terry's doing the thing in which he is not getting fined right now, I don't believe. I think as a hold-in, you can't get fined, especially if you have an ankle injury, in air quotes. But I have been team front office on this from the start, and I'm still team front office. Not, maybe slightly more emphatic on team front office. I actually have this sense. Part of it is because I think it aligns with the way I think. So when it aligns with the way you think, you're always going to feel a little bit better about the position. And what I mean by that is I think they've got really good business chops as it relates to this situation, and I think they're evaluating it the right way. That's from afar. I don't know specifically inside that building what, Sosna and Newmark and Peters are saying, like, this is it. We're not going above 26 million, 60 guaranteed a year for a, 4-year deal or whatever it would be, because he's just not who he thinks he is. Or it's more, he's just way out of line with what he's asking. He's got to come down and meet us somewhere in the middle. I don't know where that is specifically, but I do think from afar, my hunch is that they're evaluating the player the way I would. Not that they're not, considering what he is intangible-wise. Great guy, great teammate, great in the locker room, big part of their culture, change, their recalibration, which got recalibrated They recalibrated the recalibration midway through last year when they realized they had gotten it right with the quarterback and they had a chance to make a run. And now they're in a window. And, the argument that, hey, you're in a window here, like, stop, messing around, just get him signed, overpay him if you have to. I'm not in favor of overpaying him dramatically. I just think that's a bad precedent. I don't want them to do that. And I agree with them and their approach. Am I okay with a slight overpayment, for a guy that's going to go turn 30 years old and is more like the 10th, 11th, or 12th best receiver in the game, not the third or fourth best receiver in the game? I'm fine if they pay him more like the sixth or seventh best receiver in the game, a slight overpayment, but not a massive overpayment. I am team front office still, and maybe just a little bit stronger in my feeling about being team front office. Where are you? Team Terry or team front office? We did this 2.5 weeks ago, and I was surprised. It was 50-50, and that was before the hold out, then the hold in, and then the request to be traded. It was also before the 35-minute, press conference, which got a bit sideways, I thought. Anyway, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Where are you now? Team Terry or team front office? We'll take your calls next. So on Friday night for the preseason game, it was revealed that Drake May isn't going to play, and Jaden Daniels isn't going to play. Additionally, Marcus Mariota is dealing with a lower leg strain. Quinn said the level of concern is low, but Mariota is not in Foxboro, and he won't be there Friday night to play. So it'll be Josh Johnson. I'm sorry, I said Drake May. I do not have that information. My fault. I do not see anything from Vrabel. But Josh Johnson will play, so will Sam Hartman. Those will be the two quarterbacks in Friday's preseason game against the Patriots. So I just pulled up the poll from a couple of weeks ago, and I put out a new one, an identical poll. Where are you now, especially after a holdout, a hold-in, and a trade request? Are you Team Terry or Team Front Office? When we did this back on July 23rd, so that's exactly 2 weeks ago, Team Terry was at 50.2%. Team Front Office was at 49.8%. So basically a dead heat. Where are you now? By the way, the poll we did yesterday, predicting the outcome of this, Terry getting an extension, Terry playing with no extension, Terry holding out regular season games, or Terry getting traded. Terry getting an extension before the season begins, 69.4%. I thought it would be tighter than that. Playing without an extension, meaning on the final year of his current contract, 21.7%. And then holding out regular season games and getting traded were dead even at 4.5%. I had a friend of mine who has dealt with sports contracts before. He reached out to me. He reaches out every once in a while. He listens every once in a while. And he said to me something that I thought was interesting about Terry's current contract. He said that the deal that he struck in 2022 was not a good deal. It was not a smart deal. It should have been either shorter term or much longer term. It was a 3-year, $68.3 million deal, and it put him in that age crosshairs for his next deal, the turning 30. Now, he just came off his best season, but the guy's point was, if Terry had shown any signs of slowing down, the next deal would have been embarrassingly low. Like if they didn't have the success they had last year, if he didn't have his best year of his career, if there was any indication, and there was none, of Terry, starting to reach that point where he's on the other side of his prime years, he said, there should have been an opportunity to do this last year or like 2 years from now, meaning he should have signed a 5-year deal that was worth a lot more. He said that would have been probably unlikely with the group at the time in 2022, but I thought that was an interesting comment. Essentially saying the current agent, who was Terry's agent in 2022, it was just bad timing, and it should have been taken more into consideration that the next deal was going to be as he was going into his age 30 season. Take that for what it's worth. All right, 301-230-0980. Max, I forget where you were 2 weeks. Were you?
So 2 weeks ago, yeah. I was Team Terry, but I also had the caveat in there that because everybody was being pretty darn secretive about what the number was exactly. But now that the numbers officially have, been leaked or whatever, he wants more than DK and stuff like that. So I've kind of flipped a little bit. I'm more team now. That's kind of where I've been leaning, because looking at the DK Metcalf contract, Denton and I did that last week. It's a really bad deal. It's a really, really bad deal. DK Metcalf, an absolute freak, but he's really hasn't done much in his career to earn that $33 million. I completely understand you don't pay for services that have already been rendered, but at the same time, that production has never really been justified at that contract for DK. So I think we got to meet in the middle here. We got to get closer to the 30. I need Adam Peters to come up to the 30 number. I need Terry to come down to 30 from 33. It feels like that's the happy medium that we have kind of extrapolated from all of the information that we have. So that's kind of where I'm at. Team, get him signed for 30, guarantee, if you're doing a 3-year deal, guarantee 60 of it.
Yeah, I'm okay with 30. I'm okay with 50 to 60 guaranteed, however it gets structured. I'm not okay with anything more than that at this point.
I agree.
And I think the team's at less than 30, and I think it's probably appropriate, but I'm okay overpaying him slightly for being Terry. And by the way, for recognizing the importance he has to this team right now. I'll tell you, I've been a DK Metcalf fan, and I wasn't when he came out of Ole Miss. I thought he was a straight line guy.
We all did.
That didn't have, the ability to get separation other than with speed. I've been dead wrong. I think he is and has at times we've seen him dominate games. He just hasn't had the quarterback play, hasn't had the overall team play. But he's a guy that's, until last year has stayed relatively healthy. It's going to be interesting because they got a guy that can actually throw the football. Aaron Rodgers, do you see the Ryan Clark? Ryan Clark's been anti-Aaron Rodgers pretty much all off season.
Mm-hmm.
He attended training camp the other day, and he said, I promise you he's Aaron Rodgers throwing the football. He was Aaron Rodgers throwing the football last year. It just was an absolute train wreck of an organization. But he's 42. We'll see what happens. But that's going to be an interesting combination, man. That's for sure. I am team front office still. That's where I was 2 weeks ago. That's where I am now. I'm there a little bit stronger than I was, slightly anyway. But I want it to work out. I really want it to work out for Terry. I want him to be here for the next 3 years, 4 years, finishing his career here. I think he's super important to this team. And I think the team recognizes that. But I don't want the team to overpay for a great guy. I think that's a bad precedent. I just do. Anyway, where are you guys? 301-230-0980. Team Terry or team front office? Let's start with James in Laurel. James, go ahead.
How you doing, Kevin?
James, what's up?
So this is I'm team front office, and honestly, if the front office is as smart as I'm pretty sure they are, this is actually the easiest negotiation and probably the easiest game of playing chicken and Texas Hold'em that you can play with someone calling their bluff. You look at the history of Terry McLaurin in this franchise from when he was a Redskin to Washington football team player to now, he's been a team first guy. And no matter how much he tries to stand in front of everyone and say that he wants his money, he wants this, he wants that, nothing about his character indicates he's anything other than a team guy. Right. He can dig his heels in all he wants to. He's played behind some of the worst quarterbacks that I can't even name all the quarterbacks he's played behind. And now he's finally with a guy in Jaden Daniels where they were one game away from a Super Bowl, and you're telling me you're going to hold out for a couple $1 million more and actually walk away and play for potentially another team that will be further away from your goal of trying to win. I doubt very seriously that's going to happen. So I think it's easy to see them working the deal out and him being a commander moving forward. So easy negotiation, but I'm team first.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. Good call. Yeah. I mean, he's playing the holdout book by the book, right? Expressing frustration, having it, leak out through his agent, then doing it publicly, then holding out, then holding in, then requesting a trade. And now, we've got to wait for the next move. The next move is, does he hold out in regular season games? I think that, again, I think it's the only way that he actually has a chance to get back any kind of leverage, but I think it's high risk and maybe not big reward. I think that if we're talking about, coming down a few million a year and maybe losing 5 to 10 million on the guarantee or whatever it is, I think he's better with, bird in hand. I don't think the two in the bush are there. Not with this group. He would have been better off having Snyder still own the team and have a real strong affinity for Terry, which he probably would have had, although he was more apt to buddying up with quarterbacks or, sort of outlandish stars. That's not what Terry is. Let's go to Skip. Skip, are you team front office or team Terry?
Hey, Kevin.
What's up,
As
Skip?
you know, I've been pretty strongly team Terry, but I must admit I'm wavering a bit. And I'm thinking selfishly now about all the pleasure I could have this upcoming season if Terry is there. And I definitely don't want him to miss any games any regular season games. So, and of course, you had another question about how much would we lose if he's not there? And I was strongly feeling like it's going to be a lot, especially when you get to the end of the season and the playoffs. You're going to need a number one guy for that, at least. So I think there's an obvious solution. And Louis Riddick said, and I think Louis is pretty tapped into Terry's and to the team, said that the floor for Terry is 30. So I think the obvious solution is to get to that 30 number. And I disagree with you about the guarantee being under 60. I think it has to be at least 60, because that is the bottom line equal to DK Metcalf that Terry really wants, is that guaranteed 60. You know, I believe that Terry is good for this year and a couple years after that, as far as his wear and tear, that he still has speed, that even a couple of the guys that are paid high, more than him, like the receiver in Detroit, you know, is like a 4-6 guy. He's a great slot receiver, but
Amon-Ra St. Brown's a 4-6 guy?
Yes. You can look it up. Okay, because I've looked it up. All these things up trying to compare Terry to
4-5-1.
the other guys.
4-5
okay.
guy.
Oh, at his best. Okay. So,
hey, Skip,
I don't know if
Amon-Ra St. Brown's a star, a legit star receiver.
But does he stretch the field like Terry?
I think he does everything.
The answer is no.
Personally,
he's a great slot receiver, which means you can feed him the ball.
He doesn't have the versatility maybe that Terry has, but
that's important.
I mean, almost any vote, whether it's media or players, Amon-Ra St. Brown consistently is thought of as a better receiver than Terry McLaurin. And, by the way, he's 24, 25 years old. But anyway, we don't need to argue about that. You're wavering. Why are you wavering?
I am wavering.
You haven't said specifically why you're wavering.
Because I'm thinking now about the team and this season. The opportunity we have this season is so tremendous. I don't want it to be ruined by him missing regular season games, because that's going to be a terrible, bring disunity to the team, and and we need to get off to a good start. We have that Green Bay game, and we have some other tough games. So I am wavering. I'm still team. I think he deserves at least $30 million and a $60 million guarantee.
Okay.
I mean, I think the team has to do that in order, just to keep.
I don't think the team's at 30. I think they're at less than 30. I wouldn't mind 30. I'd consider it to be a slight overpayment, to be honest with you, based on where I would have him among the receivers in the league and where their average is. Now, again, average annual is not as important as practical guarantee, guaranteed for injury. But I'm okay if they would get there, because I would consider that, an overpayment based on the guy that you want, his importance to this team. And I think he needs. I think the one thing we have to be clear about, he's gonna play this year for this team, and he's a professional. So he's only going to go out there and do everything he can to not only help the team win, but to put up a big season for himself. So
what about the feeling within the team about how you treated?
I think that's way overrated stuff, personally. I think everybody's into their own thing. And by the way, who's to say some players in that locker room aren't looking at Terry saying, man, you're asking for way too much. You're great. We love you. We want you here, and go for it. But you're not just below Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson.
Giving him 30?
What
about giving him at least 30 and 60 million
but that's apparently not where he's been, right?
I know.
As far as we know. I said, to me, 30 is a slight overpayment in terms of average annual, but I'd be willing to do it for him. Definitely. Skip, let me move on. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Let's go to Ian. Team Terry or team front office?
I've been Team Terry. I will stay Team Terry. I will say the same thing I said to you over Twitter, where you responded back. If we can come up with this deal, because obviously the team leaked to Schefter what they think he wants. He leaked to Diana what he wants. I think there's a compromise like you just went through with your previous caller. I echo your sentiments that the goal is to win this year and next year, if not greater. He gives you that chance. You don't have a plan B. Terry's not getting traded, just like Myles Garrett didn't, just like Trey Hendrickson and Micah
Parsons too.
Guys. Right. We know all of this gets done, just like Dak got done at the last minute, CD got done at the last minute, this will get done at the last minute, but I never understand this process. You know, both sides kind of know what the end is. There is a compromise. Why go through all this rigmarole to get there? And it's so funny because if you recall 2 years ago with Dak, or last year with CeeDee Lamb, or this year with Myles Garrett, both sides are so hyperbolic about it, and then come to a compromise, and it's as if nothing happened.
That'll probably happen. But I think in terms of why you go through this, I can't answer that because I don't have, and you don't have, the specifics. If he's out there asking for just barely less than what Justin Jefferson makes, the team is probably like, you're out of your mind. Like, we are way far apart. You've got to, you got to lessen up that dig with your heels because we can't get anywhere near that.
Kevin, do you believe that Terry thinks and is asking for Jefferson Chase money?
I don't know. Considerably more than DK Metcalf puts him at 3 or 4 in the league on average annual.
I think that's what the team leaked. I don't believe that that's what Terry's side, because you just heard your previous caller say that. And then the other thing, and this is a larger point, in an off season that should be all about football and excitement, it has been bizarre. You look at Philly, you look at some of the other teams, it is football 24/7. This offseason has been the name, the uniform, the stadium, Terry. And it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, but you know what? The underlying for me, and I can't speak for all of you, is that I've never had this much anticipation for a season and this much confidence in a season than I have right now. It's been decades. They're going to be a good football team this year. They're going to be a very good offensive team because Terry's going to play. You and I both know that. He's playing.
Right.
Whether it's probably going to be on an extension where they're all going to, like you said, and I agree with you, they're all going to talk about, this is the process. It's just business. We love each other. And he'll be ready to roll. I do have some concerns. Thanks, as always, Ian. I do have some concerns. It's the Pauly concern, and it's not unfounded that if you're not there and you're not working from the beginning and you're not getting into football shape and you're not, in rhythm with Jaden and Debo and some of the changes that they may have made to the, I get that. I think there's some risk there. So I would rather it get done much sooner than much later. But he's going to play. That to me is not, they're not trading him. That's not going to happen. So, he'll be there. I just hope he's not there compromised physically or otherwise. 301-230-0980. I see everybody on hold. We'll get to you, Joe, DC, Kurt, Lap, Bones, Ronnie. Again, Team Terry or Team Front Office. Eric Edholm from the NFL Network will join us at 11. We'll keep you posted on what's going on with the joint practice with the Patriots. It has gotten underway here in the last few minutes. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, and the team980.com.
All right, here's what's happening on this Wednesday, August 6th. Matt Stafford is dealing with an aggravated disc injury. Reports are that the Rams are being cautious and are calling him week to week. The 37-year-old quarterback could still be ready to go for week 1. And following the retirement of Mike Williams, the Chargers are bringing back the other receiver from the old dynamic duo. Keenan Allen is returning to the team following a 1-year stint with the Chicago Bears. The 33-year-old wide receiver worked out with the team on Friday and reunites with his old quarterback, Justin Herbert. George Kittle crashed an NFL Network set yesterday with Fred Warner to air a grievance after he found out that the NFL has banned smelling salts, claiming that the effects from the salts can mask concussion-like symptoms. Kittle is asking to find a middle ground after admitting he uses them, quote, before every drive, end quote. And the Nats, they fall to the Athletics in a 16-7 blowout. Mackenzie Gore with one of his roughest outings of the season with only 3 innings pitched, giving up 12 hits and 8 earned runs. The Nats are in a get-right spot tonight. Cade Cavalli getting ready to make his debut against Jeffrey Springs. First pitch is at 6:45. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
From Jerry, why are you so confident that they won't trade him? I'm confident that they won't trade him because I don't think that there's a package they could get back at this point on the calendar, the NFL calendar, that would make it worthwhile. Terry he's got to get paid. To get traded, the team's got to be willing to pay him, and they've got to be able to work out an agreement. Because they're going to pay him, that naturally lowers the compensation you're going to go back. So that's number one. Number two is the team needs him. I'm not making it out like the team doesn't need him, but I just think from a financial standpoint, because he's under contract, they've got all the leverage. What's he going to do at 30 years old? Hold out and not play 2025? And then do what? It starts all over. He didn't gain any ground. And I will say this, that nothing would be more of an indictment on, or at least a reflection of how they feel about Terry and his playing, because we know how they feel about him personally, than if they traded him for, a third-round pick. I mean, that would say a hell of a lot about what they think he really means to the team. And so I don't think that they would do it, because I think they understand he means a lot to the team. Team Terry or team front office? By the way, I put out a Twitter poll at Kevin Sheehan DC. We did it 2 weeks ago. It was basically 50-50. It is much different today. 500 votes in here in about 20 minutes, and team front office is approaching 70%. It's almost 70-30. Team front office over team Terry. So my emailer, Tommy, may have been right. Let's go to our guy, DC in Woodbridge. DC, go ahead.
Great day, Kevin. How you doing, brother?
What's up, DC? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm excellent. I'm still Team Terry, and I'm Team Terry for all of the things you've been saying. Like, it's funny because a lot of your callers and yourself have been taking the words right out of my mouth. This is how contract negotiations go in the NFL. This is the business side, and we as fans want to see the football side. And I look at it like this. They probably told Terry, and we know Noah Brown's been in camp, and he's not healthy, and they doing what they can with him, and they say the other name's Cosme or whatever. Terry might have tweaked his ankle or something during the off-season workouts, and they're like, well, when you get healthy, we'll get you the deal you want, and then you
think that's what's going on?
And we'll give you your money. I mean, we got all kinds of hypotheticals out here, but I'm looking at it that way because the team doesn't seem like they're upset with Terry. Terry doesn't seem like he's upset with the team or any.
Well, he requested a trade.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that's part of the business side.
I get it, but he's not thrilled. He's hurt about the way it's gone. I'm not saying that he dislikes anybody, but he's hurt that they haven't seen what he sees in himself contractually. I think that's.
I agree.
I think that's true. Now, I don't think they're just sitting there saying, yeah, get that ankle better and we'll get a deal done. I don't think there's anything wrong with his ankle. And I think it wouldn't have an impact on getting a deal done anyway. If there was a serious concern about his ankle, we would know about that at this point. I think the concern, and everybody said it, that number is $30 million. And we know when you doing a negotiation, you don't come in and just say 30. You set it hard high and the team set it hard low, and then you come to a median, which is 30. And I think ultimately everything is going to be fine. I don't see that there's an issue. I still lean in that direction.
Or Terry, but that's why I'm Team Terry, because we found out that Jaden Daniels played hurt. At any time, we don't know what these guys are going through and what they're giving to this organization that could be detrimental to them or their family later in their life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I hear you.
I definitely agree that $30 million is the where it should be, and I think that's where it's going to end up.
Thanks, DC. Appreciate
have a great day, brother.
Yep. Is the sentiment turning? It appears to in this Twitter poll, 70-30 team front office to team Terry. Where are you? Team front office or team Terry? Let's go to our guy, Lap. Lap, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? How's it going, bro?
How you doing, man?
Hey, I just celebrated my 44th birthday on Monday, man.
Happy birthday to you.
I'm still, man. Look, we
approaching
Leos,
midlife
we party all month.
Approaching middle age.
Oh, definitely. I said as Leos, we party all month, so I'm still gonna turn up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hey, Yeah, hey, I'm going with Team Terry, man. I was listening to something that Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen show. He was saying that these, they expect the players to, be professional and this and that, but these owners and corporations don't do the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want people to hold in, hold out. Then they got players, in training camp talking about them. So, like, y'all doing the same thing.
Terry's under
contract.
Lap. Terry's under contract. They're not negotiating with a free agent. This is the part that Kevin, I don't want to go total old school here, because I think it's beneficial for the team to get him signed to a long-term contract. Beneficial for both parties, and hopefully they get to that. But the people in national media that are screaming, just pay him. Your franchise was a dumpster fire. You got a chance to win a Super Bowl. Just pay him. Well, the just pay him, we witnessed that over many, many years. That doesn't work either. I actually think they're being fiscally responsible from my standpoint.
Well, let me say this, and I had a question I wanted to ask you too. So, but I'm saying at some point, Kevin, I mean, you're not going to win against, an NFL, franchise. I mean, it's like in poker.
What do you mean you're not?
Wins.
Who's not going to win? What do you mean?
I'm saying, what I'm saying is, when it comes to corporations and negotiations, it's very rare that the little man or the underdog wins. But you can't
Depends
knock a person
on how much
for
leverage
betting
that guy has.
Right, that's true. But I'm saying you can't knock a person for betting on himself, because it's his money. It's not nobody else's money. So he does what he feels he needs to do.
I hear
right
you.
For him and his family, just like everybody else, though.
But
Kevin.
he signed a
And
deal 3 years ago that includes this third year.
I know that, but I'm saying if you bet on yourself, I mean, it's just what it is. But let me ask you a quick question, real quick. What if they franchise tag him, right, 1 or 2 times? What's the most they can franchise tag them? And what is
I don't know what the second tag is. It's like 300, 400% of the last deal or something like that. You're not going to get to a second franchise tag in 2027, but you could certainly end up tagging him in 26. Thanks, Lap, for the call. Appreciate it.
All right.
Let's go to our guy, Tom, in DC. Tom, go ahead. Team Terry or team front office?
I'm Team Terry. And the reason why I'm Team Terry is we spent 30 years overpaying people, other people's throwaways.
Right.
And I understand the fiscal responsibility. I would just say this. Terry is not the person that you go with your fiscal responsibility.
There's part of that I agree with. Just so you know, I'm not trying to bang him. I'm not trying to haggle, a great deal, out of Terry. I have no problem paying him market value or above it. I'm just not going to overpay by a lot because he's a really good player, but an excellent teammate. That's a bad precedent, in my opinion. But I'm okay with paying a little bit above the market for this particular player, no doubt.
Well, I say this. 30 is where it should be. If you want to add some makeable incentives, yeah, but you can't offer him anything less than 30. That's ridiculous.
I don't think it's ridiculous, but I wouldn't care if it got to 30. But again, it's the rest of the deal. We're getting into, like, I hear these conversations, including right here on this show, and I appreciate the call, about everybody trying to structure it like you're the agent or you're the team. There's so many moving pieces in these conversations about contract. The easiest thing for us as fans is to look at the list of what receivers make on an annual basis, but that's not really the whole story. Guaranteed, the practical guaranteed money is really, the number. Okay. So how much are you practically getting guaranteed? And that'll be a key number, but average annual is the easiest way to have the conversation. To me, Terry is in that group with the Higgins and the Ayuks and the Tariq, not the Tariq Hill player, but the Tariq Hill deal because of the age. That was a year ago. He's at $30 million a year. I mean, would you rather have Tariq Hill or would you rather have Terry McLaurin? I understand the potential locker room culture stuff with Hill, but let's not try to act like Tariq Hill isn't a better player than Terry McLaurin. Of course he is. But Amon-Ra is at 30, that at 77 guaranteed. He was 24 years old when he signed the deal. 28 to 30, somewhere in there, if we're talking average annual. To me, it's like 50 to 60 guaranteed, somewhere in that neighborhood. The practical guarantee list, goes down to, DK's was 60, and that's like 10th in the league in terms of the receivers and guaranteed money. His average annual's higher. All right. We'll come back to this, I promise, because I left a lot of you on hold, and I apologize. But I've got a guest coming up next. Eric Edholm from the NFL Network will join me. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. We'll come back to Team Terry or Team Front Office. Right now, I'm surprised. I am surprised that we are at 70-30, Team Front Office over Team Terry in terms of whose side you are taking. This was 50-50 2 weeks ago. It's now 70-30 after a holdout, a hold-in, and a trade request. I would not have guessed that, Max. I'm not going to lie to you. I would have guessed a slightly higher on Team Front Office, but not 70-30 at this point.
There's been a big
joining
shift.
me right now is Eric Edholm, one of my favorite guests to have on the show, NFL.com, NFL Network, at Eric with a C _ Edholm on X and on Twitter. So let's start there. What do you make from the outside looking in terms of not being a fan or not being in the market, but being an NFL analyst and reporter? What do you make of the Terry situation, and how do you think it ends?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, obviously, for a franchise that was cloaked in such bad times for so long, and then last year came around and really changed everything. Obviously, the trajectory of this team is totally different. You know, McLaurin was such a good soldier for the Commanders for so long, through name changes, through losing, through everything. You know, different quarterbacks, and so now they've got this great situation. The contract standoff has hit. No one really knows where exactly it stands, but I haven't sensed a lot of activity from other teams. You know, you haven't heard reports of a lot of teams calling and making offers. Maybe it's because they understand that a deal is likely to get done at some point in Washington, or maybe it's they feel that Washington isn't interested at all in trading him. But yeah, I mean, where it goes next is fascinating. Obviously, he's he's up there among the higher paid receivers now, but wants to enter that top 10 range that puts him closer to, $30-40 million a year, which is what the elite receivers make.
What do you think he is in terms of the landscape of wide receivers?
Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, he's sort of right on the borderline of one of those 1A kind of guys. I don't know that you'd quite, put him up in that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb kind of plateau, but I think you'd have him, right in the same sort of zip code as guys like T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle and, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, that kind of next tier. And most of those guys are making closer to, the high 20s or low 30s per year. I think Terry's at 23 something this year, or this contract. So
yeah, cap number,
you can understand the disconnect there. It's not cavernous, but it's not minor either.
Right. Yeah, it was always, Eric, going to be a bit tricky because he's entering his age 30 season, and then
right.
How does this new group of Adam Peters and Lance Newmark, et cetera, how do they see him? Because I think most of us, that follow more than just our own home team understand that he's not Chase or Jefferson, right? And then you get into that second tier, and there's probably, and maybe if you want to put Lamb and A.J. Brown into that next part of that second tier, fine. Tyreek Hill, even at 30. But then there's truly like 10 to 15 guys that you could put them in almost any order, after that. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So, I love you do the power rankings for NFL.com. And I love that you've got it out already here early in camp. And you've got Washington at number 6 overall in your preseason power rankings. Describe your outlook for Washington in 2025. And by the way, let's assume Terry is under contract. Let's assume he is going to play, whether it's in on a new contract or it's on the final year of his deal. I don't think I should have asked you. I don't think they're trading him. Do you?
No, I don't either. I think it's similar to Parsons and really Trey Hendrickson too. I don't think any of those other teams are going to make a deal, and I don't think Washington is. And I think they understand the importance of the season and having him out there and being Jaden Daniels, kind of lead guy. Obviously, Debo was brought in for a reason too, and they have this balanced attack. And I think obviously there's so much emphasis put on the offense for good reason. Not that the defense doesn't need to do something this year, but I think it's without a marquee addition on that side of the ball, I don't consider Von Miller to be that at this stage. But with virtually the same caliber of personnel as last year or comparable, it really does put a lot of onus on the offense even taking another step. I maybe I'm reading it the wrong way, and maybe there is some untapped potential on the other side of the ball. But if I do have a worry, it's that, you know, we look at the Texans last year coming into last season. They were the next darlings, right? C.J. Stroud was on the verge of stardom, and this is a team that was gonna poise itself among the Bills and the Chiefs and the other elite teams in the AFC, and it just didn't happen last year. And maybe it happens this year, maybe it's next, I don't know. But we love to elevate these teams beyond what they're capable of or what they're ready for. So, are the Commanders ready to take that proverbial next step? I don't know. I think they're close, but I think there's also a little bit of reason for, you know, reasonable hesitation.
Well, let's you know, kind of dial in on them offensively, because you wrote the offense should be great again. I could see, you know, the Commanders making incremental improvements from last season on defense, but it's hard to argue that they're tangibly better on that side of the ball. But offensively, you know, we did this a couple of weeks back where we took calls on, have we crowned him being Jaden Daniels, have we crowned him too early? Because there are people that, and you just, you know, referenced it, that look back last year at Houston and C.J. Stroud in year 2. So specific to Jaden, not the team, not the offense, because he strapped that team to his back as much as anybody's done in a long time. Have we crowned him too early?
Well, yeah. I mean, in the sense that I think teams are going to have some kind of answer for him and have some kind of emphasis this offseason on, all right, let's find ways to stop him, especially if you're the, you know, Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles and have to face him twice a year, or if you've got him on the schedule after not seeing him last year. You know, I'm sure a lot of these assistants are going to spend time breaking him down. Let's find his habits. Let's see if we can get him into those sack situations and, you know, self-inflicted errors and things like that, and try to, you know, push him into some uncomfortable places where he feels like he has to do everything for this team. And like you said, last year, he often did it. I mean, there were so many times where, you know, he bailed them out of bad situations and kept them in games, or, you know, and then there were times like the Eagles game where the regular season one where, you know, he wasn't great until he had to be at the very end. And I would say it's just a little bit more of that, where, you know, play to play, down to down consistency, just a little bit more rhythm and timing, understanding that teams are going to have answers for him this year, keeping everybody happy. Obviously, there's more mouths to feed in that offense, and, you know, being smart with his body as far as being a runner and not exposing himself to injury. All those little things that really do add up over time. And I just think it's really hard for a first-year breakout quarterback to find that next skier in year 2. If you look back, I mean, Mahomes and a few other guys, Lamar, have been able to do it. You know, it took Josh Allen a few years to kind of really get into the league. So there aren't many that you look back on and say they clearly
nobody did it like Marino did it.
Right. Yeah, that's the ultimate example. Yep.
Yeah. The last year, the best way to defend him was to keep him off the field. And they could do that because defensively they weren't very good last year. You know, you wrote in your, you know, outlook for them, where you've got them number 6 in the NFL power rankings, that, you know, you'd argue that they're even a tad bit worse defensively, personnel wise, until proven otherwise. So your expectation for this team defensively, it doesn't sound great. Go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, and I don't know that it needs to be great, but I think, you know, to start the year, I mean, there are going to be some challenges now. You know, I don't remember. I know they start with the Giants, and I got to go to Green Bay early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like I didn't look at their early schedule and think, oh God, what are they going to do? How are they going to handle this? I mean, it really heats up later from what I remember. But you make a good point, which is that if you're losing the time of possession battle every week, and you can't keep those teams from converting third downs and keeping the chains moving, it's going to be a problem. So, yeah, I mean, I would say defensively, it probably depends on some of these younger guys stepping up. I mean, what does Johnny Newton give you this year? You know, does Javon Kinlaw or Miller have anything left in the tank? You know, how much does Trey Amos enter the cornerback discussion? those are, Quan Martin was another guy that, it's hard to know exactly what he is at this stage of his career. I think Mikey Sainer still's got much better football ahead of him than what he showed last year, bravely taking on that role and doing as well as anybody else they had on the roster. But obviously some room for improvement too, as he was kind of thrown into the fire. So I think a lot of it is, can the young guys help solidify the group and that they were drafted to do? And then did some of the older guys they brought in help kind of, have something left in the tank, I guess.
Talking to Eric Edholm, NFL.com, NFL Network. So let's look at the landscape of not just the division, but the conference. Because I've made the case here recently, the conference is kind of loaded. We didn't think that last year, and that just kind of goes to show that the NFL is really changes year to year. It's really hard to predict. But how do you see Washington first within the division and their chances to overtake Philly rather than having a repeat champion for the first time in 21 years or whatever? And then among all of the teams in the NFC that are, somewhere between good and very good.
Yeah. I mean, you're hoping obviously that the Eagles, their personnel losses, especially on defense, are going to hold them back a little bit or cause them, half a season to adjust or something. Obviously what they do offensively is terrific. And, they had one or two duds, but for the most part, they were a great team on that side of the football and at times exceptional defensively, especially down the stretch. So you're hoping that, okay, maybe we can take a little of the salt away from that defense and make them closer to average on that side of the ball. And then teams like Washington have more of a chance. Big picture, Detroit's obviously facing questions, lose two coordinators in the offseason, middle of their O-line, middle of their D-line, still kind of worries. And that's really what defined them as a contender. Obviously Vikings breaking in a new quarterback. Packers seem like one of those teams on paper that are really, really good. But how many superstars do they have? Like, how many true difference makers? Or is it a team of, above average talent across the board? And what does Jordan Love have as far as another guy that we've been kind of waiting to break out or whatever? So, Buccaneers, the Tristan Wirfs injury could hold them back. I think they're a really good football team, though. I think that's a team that maybe has to be mentioned among the title contenders if everything goes right. But yeah, I think Washington's right in that mix with those teams I just mentioned. The NFC West teams, you got to obviously factor in Rams. I think 49ers will bounce back. And then the other two teams, Seahawks and Cardinals, are at least capable of winning the division. So I'd put Washington ahead of most of those teams, if not all. And I'd keep them in that mix for now for the, top 3 or 4 teams in the NFC.
7 of your top 10 are NFC teams. You didn't mention the Rams. I think they look dangerous if Stafford's healthy. What do you think?
Yep. I do too. Is this his last season? Is he able to make it through a year healthy? Those are questions we have to start every year by asking. And, the Rams the last 2 years have put themselves in such big holes. I think it was 3-6 2 years ago, and then 1-4 last season, made the playoffs both times. Were tough outs both times. Took the Lions to the brink in that loss in Detroit. And then last year, absolutely walloping the Vikings and giving the Eagles everything they can handle. So this clearly has become a team Sean McVay is coached into being January ready. And if Stafford's upright and Devontae Adams is the weapon they think he can be alongside Puka Nacua, I'm with you. I held back a little just because of the injury and because questions with Matt, but he's there. They're ready. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a terrible backup, but, they really do need Stafford.
Yeah, I saw that they signed Kyron Williams the other day. I think he's incredibly underrated. But the combination of Nacua and Devontae Adams played great when he got, after a couple of games with Aaron Rodgers in New York last year. If Stafford's healthy, that is imposing in terms of their playmakers.
I agree. I think it's an upgrade over Cooper Kupp, and I'm a unabashed Cooper Kupp fan. I think he's terrific, right? His role, you can't argue what he did in LA, but adds a different dimension to their offense, I think. And they like Tyler Higbee still, and they think the some of the other weapons are going to kind of step up. So they'll be an explosive offense at times, just whether they have that health at the quarterback position to kind of keep it all stabilized.
Your thoughts on Tampa, I think, are interesting because I actually don't think Bowles gets enough credit. And I felt that way throughout his career. Look, he's a former Redskin and a former Super Bowl champion here for some of us old enough to remember. And I've always rooted for him. But I think he is top 5 in the league when it comes to defensive game planning and in-game kind of play calling. Does the rest of the league feel that way about him?
I used to think he was way too conservative, and at times, especially when he had Tom Brady, it was like, man, you've got the guy who can convert fourth downs, and you want the ball in his hands. You don't want to punt, right? But rarely did he not give his team a chance in those games. I mean, that was there were still times where I felt like he kind of held back a little bit, but you saw the noose loosen a little bit, and he's not afraid to blitz, and he's not afraid to come up with some interesting defensive looks. And that secondary was such a hot mess last year with injuries and everything. They draft 2 guys. They're moving people around. I think they have depth there that they haven't had before. So if the left tackle's healthy on offense, they've got the run game, 2-headed run game. They love the Emeka Egbuka kid they drafted at receiver. Godwin can come back at his pace. I like the feel of this whole thing. It depends on Mayfield, obviously, but he played at a really high level last year. So maybe Todd Bowles is one of those forgotten coaches, a little bit underrated, unappreciated.
Yeah, and Mayfield is he's a gamer. He's getting better, but he's got another offensive coordinator this year. So that should be interesting. We're talking to Eric Edholm. Do you see in either conference an equivalent this year to what Washington was last year? A dead last to, 2 playoff wins, 12 regular season wins. Is there a major turnaround team that you've got your eyes on?
Well, I mean, I still have my questions with both of them, but 2 candidates that to me at least 3 candidates I'll throw out there. But, they have the quarterbacks, number one. That kind of gives you a chance. I would say Jacksonville, if Trevor Lawrence can bounce back. Tennessee, I kind of compared them a little bit to Washington with Cam Ward and saying, he could be the Pied Piper there. He could be the guy who says, jump on my back. He's such a all business, no nonsense kid. Right. He kind of reminds me a little of Daniels, not as a runner, but just in terms of his poise and equanimity and all that stuff. And a little loose to the ball, but I could see him rallying this team that had no direction last year, that had no kind of, sense or feel of how to win football games. The Patriots would be another one with Vrabel there and Drake May in year 2. I think all 3 of those teams at least have the potential to win 3, 4, 5 more games than they did last year, maybe even more than that. As far as taking that Washington-like jump where you're competing for a division title and winning playoff game, I don't know that I can quite go that far, but those are 3 that I think are going to be better than people imagine they'll be.
Is there a team that you think takes a major step back? A good team?
Well, I mean, the one that I hesitate to say it because, Minnesota won, I don't know, about 100 football games last year.
Right.
It's like, are they going to go 14-3 again? Probably not. I really like J.J. McCarthy, and I think that roster is really good. The more I kind of look at the Vikings, I think they're good. But you play in the NFC East or NFC North rather, and we don't really know what to expect from McCarthy. So, they could easily, go 10-7, and that's a 4-game difference. That's a big drop from last year.
Yeah, they were so good defensively through the first 3 quarters of the season. And then they started to give up some stuff there towards the end. But it was really, this is the team you follow, right? Is my memory right that you're a Minnesota guy?
No, not at all. I mean,
okay.
I covered them briefly when I was at Pro Football Weekly.
Okay,
but
I'm thinking of somebody else then.
Okay.
I just like Brian Flores can flat out coach defense.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a big part of it. Sam Darnold melted down at the end. It'll be interesting to see what happens. By the way, I was reading this morning. I'd not Sam Howell's in jeopardy of not making the team. Is that right?
he's not performed that great in camp. That's too bad. I always liked Sam, from what I've heard, though, that it kind of started poorly early and hasn't necessarily gotten better since then. So, yeah, there's a little bit of worry about him. And, boy, he had some game moments in that 1 year for the Commanders. But I know
he had some moments, but he wasn't a starting quarterback in the NFL.
No.
I think that was pretty obvious to most of us watching. And look, he had the disastrous, Eric Bieniemy experience as well. But there was, a bit of a toughness to him. I thought he was at least a backup quarterback in the NFL. So
Gardner Minshew. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought he was.
Yeah,
I thought he was
exactly.
like a Minshew. Like, he could start 6 games for you if your quarterback get hurt. But now, who knows? It doesn't look very, very promising.
All right, last one. Back to Washington and the quarterback in particular. It's 2-part. Number one, where do you have him ranked, on the list of quarterbacks in the league? Recently we saw him at 5th in, I think it was the ESPN countdown of quarterbacks. We'll see where he lands on this, NFL.com, your place, the top 100 voted on by the players. And then the second part of that is, what do you think his MVP chances are, legitimately?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think he's got a great chance because people love him. I mean, look, there's bias in voters. I know that I always factor that in. Like, people would love it if Jaden Daniels would build off what he did as a rookie and improve on it. So I think enthusiastic voting would be all over the place. You know what I mean? Like, plus at that position, we're always looking for the next guy, right? Like, if Joe Burrow has anything close to a great season, people will vote for him. Jaden is the same way. I think, Jalen Hurts is a very popular quarterback among voters. I just think that those 3 guys will always have a chance on top of the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jacksons of the world. Those guys are baked in. They're, they, in some ways, Mahomes is almost living off his reputation. I mean, I don't think he's played that great the last 2 years. I really don't. I don't think that's a stretch to say that.
Is there anybody you'd take before him, though, if you had to win it all this year?
I think, man, I know it sounds crazy, but I think I'd almost take Lamar or Josh before him, and it would be I love Pat. I think he's, arguably the most creative or gifted or just natural quarterback we've seen in many, many years. And Brady made himself into greatness. So did Peyton Manning. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much of it, and this year could tell us a different story. But they're all really close, those 3 guys. And then I would have set that next tier with, Burrow, Jaden, Hurts. Who am I forgetting here? Maybe Mayfield if he has another great season. I don't know that I'd quite put him up there. Maybe Stafford, maybe Jared Goff. Those guys have had some success. Right. So.
Always great to have you on. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Enjoy you writing, and we'll do it again hopefully sometime during the season. Thanks, Eric.
Looking forward to it. See you, Kim.
Yep. Eric Edholm, everybody, at Eric_Edholm on X, on Twitter. And he writes all the time at NFL.com. All right. There is some activity up in Foxboro. We'll give you some of what's coming out of the beat reporters who are watching it up in Foxboro, the joint practice with the Patriots. And if you wanted to jump back on at 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980, are you Team Terry or Team Front Office right now? Especially from where we were 2 weeks ago, we've had a holdout, we've had a hold in, we've had a request for trade. I'll update you on where we are on the Twitter poll as well. That's surprising to me. All of that and more after I tell you, by the way, about what Window Nation's got going on right now. If you've got older windows, you're probably paying a lot more for your air conditioning than you have in recent summers, given the heat and humidity that we've had. Older windows aren't as insulated as newer windows, and they let the cool air out, and it takes more of the AC running to keep that home cool and comfortable. If you want to change that, my recommendation is to call Window Nation, 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. All you've got to do, first step, is just get an estimate. It's free. There's no risk. They'll come out when it's convenient for you. You'll find out which windows actually need to be replaced. They're not going to come out and tell you, that you got one room with good windows, you got to replace those. No, it's not the way it works. They'll tell you which windows they feel like are costing you money. You want your home to look better too. They'll leave you with a quote. They're not going to pressure you. You can shop it if you want, but right now, Window Nation is offering 50% off on all window styles with no money down, no payments, and no interest for 2 years. So you won't pay anything for your new purchase until the year 2027. And when you start paying, you'll be paying 50% off, half price. Call them, 866-90-NATION. Go to windownation.com. Best product, best customer service, best deal. Mention my name. They'll take really good care of you. So they haven't started, based on what I can tell, the joint work. There's been a lot of warm-up work, and some stars have made it out. First of all, ownership is there. Josh Harris, Mitch Rales, and Mark Klaus are all there. Mark Klaus, not ownership, but the team president. And then Jason Tatum, with that knee injury, showed up. Robert Kraft is there, and Bon Jovi showed up. Washington's going to be one of those teams that when they come into town now, maybe we'll go see Jaden Daniels.
Well, another tidbit about Friday, Kevin, is that it's Tom Brady's statue night in New England.
Oh, it is?
Yes, because I think they were planning
Brady's stat. Wow.
Yeah, they were planning. I think they were planning on doing it at some point last year, and then something happened with the game. Either it got moved or it was snowy or something like that. So they had to retool, and now they're doing it this weekend, this Friday.
Okay. There have been, I guess, individual drills with the Patriots. I see Mitch Tischler says Josh Connerly Jr. is having a good practice working against Christian Barmore and Harold Landry. I'd forgotten that's where Landry ended up in New England. We'll keep you posted. Hopefully we'll get Ben on next hour to kind of share with us what happened during the joint practice, if it's over at that point. Good to catch up with Eric Edholm. He's excellent, does a really good job for NFL Network. So the update on the Team Terry Team Front Office Twitter poll, you can vote at Kevin Sheehan DC. Wow. We did this 2 weeks ago, 50-50 in terms of whose side you're on. Right now, Team Front Office, 70.6%. Team Terry, 29.4%. So that email that I read to open up the show from Tom, who said, fan sentiment is flipping. A majority of social media posts now side with the team and speak negatively of Terry's approach. And then he goes on to say, I blame the agent, etc. Yeah. If it becomes obvious that fans are getting frustrated with Terry, would that impact Terry's position? Because I think that there's been this sense from the beginning that, at least the perception, that Washington fans are in Terry's, in Terry's court on this one, that they want him to get what he deserves. They love him. He's been the one, bright light in what has been a very dark few years until last year. And so, again, I don't get wrapped up as much as many of you do in that. I like Terry a lot, but what happened in 2017 and 18 and 19 and 20 and 21 and 22, I recognized that he was a really good player. I recognized also that he wasn't a game changer, in terms of a take the game over. There are very few of those. But he's in that second tier, maybe the top of the third tier, somewhere in there. But, during those years, it was so bleak. Yeah, it was nice to recognize somebody who did it the right way and who was performing with horrible quarterback play. I mean, horrendous quarterback play. But I'm looking forward. This is a new group. They came in last year. They won 12 games. They were 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. Almost everything they've done for the most part has worked out well. I am in benefit of the doubt mode. I am. And I was in that mode to begin with because it didn't cost anything, first of all. And it was just nice to have the ability to do that for the first time in 20-something years. And they've built up some equity here. But I'm wondering if Terry gets the sense, or his agent gets the sense, that now the fan base is a little bit frustrated with him. I wonder if that would impact things, because I think from the jump they have felt like they've had the fans on their side, and that would somehow corner Adam Peters and company into making a deal that they didn't want to make. It didn't do that. The benefit of waiting sometimes is a shift in sort of the way your fans think. That should not drive how the team operates at all, period. But that's where it is here. We're not talking about 10 votes. We, had thousands a couple of weeks ago, and we'll end up with thousands on this one as well. It is social media. I get it. That's a small, corner of the fan base, but The calls, I guess the calls were coming in more kind of pro Terry, right? More team Terry, I think. Team Terry or team front office? I'm team front office on this one. I am. But I want Terry back, man. And I want him back on an extended deal. You know, I want 3 years, 60 guaranteed, you know, somewhere in the 28 to 30 per year range. I really do. I don't want him to play it out. But as I said yesterday, there is a financial benefit to the team to not have to put out $50 to $60 million at signing and instead pay as you go for a player that's going to be 30 and then 31 in 2026, where you could end up paying him a lot less over the next 2 years and with nothing up front, just paying as you go. It's called a much better cash flow situation for the team in that situation. What you give up is you give up cap flexibility in 2026, which I don't know that they're going to need a lot of it, but they might because you've got Tunsil, you've got a guy like Luvu, who you're more likely than not going to be dialed in on trying to re-sign next offseason. So there are some contracts before you get to the 27, offseason and Jaden's $500 million deal or whatever it'll end up looking like. So you lose some cap flexibility in 26 and you don't have him under contract after 26 because you're not going to use a franchise tag twice, more likely than not. And so you potentially see him walk in 2027 on Jaden's first year of his real deal. All right, where are you? Team Terry or team front office? Let's go to the guys who were on hold when we last took calls. Little, I know, was on hold for a while. Let's go to Little. Little, go ahead, man.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Shout
Sure.
out to Mad Max.
Yep.
Coach, I'm adamant it's going to happen between Friday and Monday. And I want to have a little fun with it. At J Little 1961. I got a 2-to-1 bet. It'll happen between Friday and Monday. And the holdup is the guarantee.
Who's taking your 2-to-1 bet?
Coach. They can reach me. I gave my X number.
Yeah, but
At J Little
I got to tell you what,
Huh?
you're not getting good enough odds. 2-to-1 is
Hey,
not
well,
what it would be between Friday and
Well,
Sunday. You could get better. You could get a better number. I'm trying to help you out.
Let's say they want to bet $1,000 that they don't get trade. That they don't sign.
Yeah.
They get $2,000 if they're right.
Oh, you're giving out
right,
2-to-1 the other way. No, you should be getting the odds. The odds are
giving out
against you
2-to-1.
being right.
Shh, don't tell him, Kevin. Don't tell him.
I'm giving out 2-to-1 bets because I'm adamant it's gonna happen, Kevin. I got a little scuttlebutt.
Let me urge you, as adamant as you might be, never give up never make a wager on a bad number. That's a bad number.
Look,
you should be getting 5-to-1 back. That it'll happen between Friday and Monday.
Well,
didn't you call me a couple weeks ago and didn't you say it was going to get done like a couple of days after that?
Yes.
I'll say after the game, either after this first preseason game or prior to it. It could happen early in the morning. I know,
but didn't you Little call me a few weeks ago and say it was going to be done in like the next few days?
No, I said he's going to get top 5 money.
Top 5
I say he's going to be top 5 money. I say he's going to be top 5 in the receivers.
All right.
But look, I'm adamant about it. It's going to happen. Stay up.
Neil in Rockville wants to make a $5,000 bet with you. By the way, I would also limit. I would limit your clients on this one because you could take an absolute bath.
If they want to bet 5, I'd be glad to get that 5.
You're going to get me in trouble for brokering this. I can't do this. Little, I got to go, man. You're the best. See ya. You're giving out terrible numbers. You're not an odds maker. Let's go to Brian in Greenbelt. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, little about to lose his shirt, man.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Kevin, we gotta stay focused, man. Say Jaden Daniels, God forbid, Jaden Daniels goes down. What's Terry going to do? We need, like I've been saying, a lot of people been saying, we need focus, man. Offensive line, defense wins championships. Next season, we got to pay Vial Collins. We gotta focus on bringing in a pass rusher. We got to get it. Maybe who knows what happened on the O-line injury wise. Look at the offensive quarterbacks in the top 5. What does Cincinnati do without Burrow? They go like 3-13.
Yeah.
Look, man, Terry is not the answer. He's done a lot. So what? This fan base is proving why we are what we are, have been. The mindset is terrible. Adam Peters knows, look, we need to build a team based on what he thinks can win. It's not about Terry. It's about getting a championship here and about doing the job right. We need to focus on what matters, not who, did what in the past. I mean, Terry, I wouldn't even pay Terry. Honestly, man, I go hard line. Terry is not a top 5. He's barely top 10. He's not better than T. Higgins to me. I'd rather have T. Higgins at that age. Now, T. Higgins took way less.
I think he's right there with Higgins. I think that's the comp. I know that he thinks it's much better than that, and most of our fans do. I think it's, the T. Higgins area, the Ayuk area. He got hurt. He's coming off a bad injury. I'm a big fan of Pittman in Indianapolis. I personally, there's no way you could get me to pass on like swapping Terry for, say, a young guy like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's going to be a superstar.
Who wouldn't do that if you got
Malik
littles
Neighbors
out
is
here
going to be a superstar.
Come on, man. You got to get it.
But I want him.
Base, man.
I want him, Brian. I want him back. They're better with him than without him. They're absolutely better.
Are you sure about that? Next year at the age of 30, and Jaden Daniels misses 6 games or something like that. Who is Terry McLaurin? What's he going to do? We need to be able to say.
Well, let's hope Jaden doesn't get hurt. Let's hope the defense is better. Yeah. Let me roll, Brian. I got to get to a break. All of you on hold, stay there. I see you there. But I think the part of Brian's call that is true, it's like, and it's okay. This happens, and it's better that we're having these conversations about a holdout and a contract standoff with a team that is poised to be a good team for a second consecutive year. I am not in the camp of without Terry, they can't make the postseason. I'm not in that camp. I am in the camp of without Terry, it's going to be really hard to be as dynamic as they were offensively last year and to take that next step offensively. But they're not going to be without Terry. He's going to play. This is not a Terry doesn't play or Terry plays without a new deal. He's going to play. And if he ends up playing on a 1-year deal or the last year of his deal, honestly, I think we'll almost forget about it as the season goes along because he is such a pro. He's not going to bring it up. He's not going to beg out for injury or half-ass it. That's not him. And by the way, that wouldn't benefit him if he's looking for the next big deal. What would benefit him is to play like he did last year and have another big year. But, to me, big picture, it's still about the defense. What are they going to be defensively? Are they going to be improved? And if so, how much improved? Because to make a legitimate deep run again, they're going to have to be better defensively than they were last year. I feel like there's a chance it'll happen defensively, but that's the mystery. Tom, CJ, Joe, Billy, Steve, Bones, stay on hold. Team Terry, team front office. We'll keep you posted on what's going on up in Foxboro. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, here's what's happening Wednesday, August 6th. Matt Stafford is dealing with an aggravated disc injury. Reports are that the Rams are being cautious and are calling him week to week. The 37-year-old quarterback still could be ready to go for week 1 following the retirement of Mike Williams. The Chargers are bringing back the other receiver from the dynamic duo. Keenan Allen is returning to the team following a 1-year stint with the Chicago Bears. The 33-year-old wide receiver worked out with the Chargers on Friday and returns with his old quarterback, Justin Herbert. And George Kittle, he crashed an NFL Network event with Fred Warner to air a grievance with the NFL after he found out the league has banned smelling salts, claiming that the effects from the salts can mask concussion-like symptoms. Kittle is asking to find a middle ground after admitting he uses them before every drive. The Nats, they fall to the A's in a 16-7 blowout. Mackenzie Gore with one of his roughest outings of the season. He pitched just 3 innings, gave up 12 hits and 8 earned runs. Nats are in a get-right spot tonight. Cade Cavalli likely to make his debut tonight against Jeffrey Springs. First pitch at 6:45. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
All right. There apparently was a bit of a melee at the joint practice in Foxboro. John Keim, benches cleared on the Washington defensive side at the end of a pass play. Second skirmish in a few minutes, broken up quickly. Pat's tight end, Guy Scott, was upset, held back at the end. No list of Washington players that we've seen that were involved in the bench clear. Ben tweeted out, Mike Vrabel's been mixing it up even more than usual today. Dove to the ground to break up a fight between an unidentified Patriots offensive player and an unidentified Commanders defensive player. Unidentified. That's the nature of this time of year when there are 80 to 90 players out there on your roster. They're getting after it. I'll never forget the Houston Texans coming to Richmond in the brawl that happened in that particular practice. I was doing a show about 15 yards away from it. That was interesting. All right. Team Terry, team front office. Seems like the calls are skewing more Team Terry, but man, on the poll that I put out at Kevin Sheehan DC, it's 71-29 team front office to Team Terry in terms of whose side you are on now. Let's go to our guy, Joe in Springfield. Joe's been on hold for a while. Joe, thank you. As always, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Welcome back. Glad
Thanks,
you didn't really
Joe.
miss anything crazy while you were gone.
Yeah, right.
Like I said 2 weeks ago, and I said this back in June as well, I am on the team on this one, okay? We got a good thing going forward. And again, I mentioned this as well, that you don't hear Josh Harris's name during all these negotiations. That's a good thing because the previous ownership would have been all over it and probably would have overpaid a player. So
yeah, look at Jerry talking, basically every other day about the Parsons situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one plus side of it. And I do, and like you, Kevin, I agree with the fact that he's going to play this season, and it's going to happen. I really now also I'm cautious, hopefully, that he doesn't sit out the first two games. I don't want to go 0-2 after playing the Giants and the Packers. But by the way, literally 5 weeks from Sunday, we're playing a real game against the Giants in the home opener. I really hope that this whole thing
4 weeks from Sunday, right? 4 weeks from this coming Sunday.
It's a four or five, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so we just sign him and have Terry do this thing, accept what the team's offering him, sign him, because I do not want to have this ball on the whole season. It's like, can we please have him just giving it
I'd rather have that too, but I really think, Joe, if he ends up if they don't come to an agreement and he just plays out the final year of his deal, honestly, the only way it ends up becoming a part of the daily conversation is if the offense is really struggling and Terry, for whatever reason, if Terry got hurt, people would blame it on the fact that he wasn't there and they didn't get it signed earlier. And then if the team is struggling offensively, that's when it would become, I think, a conversation. But I think if he plays out lots of players try to get a contract done. T. Higgins did recently. We've seen this before, and they don't come to an agreement, and they play out that final year. And by the way, that's the real bet on themselves, although sometimes it's not really their choice. And Terry could, I know he's 30, but if he had another big year, there would be some big money for him. Worst case, $28.6 million in the form of a franchise tag for 2026. Not exactly what he wants, understood. But I think the idea that if he plays or if this doesn't get done, it's a major distraction. It's a hit to the locker room. It's a hit to last year's vibe. It could be, but I don't think it's a lock that it is. Thank you, Joe. Everybody stay on hold. I see you. The phone lines are packed. We'll keep doing this for another segment. Stay there. Kevin Sheehan Show. The Team 980, theteam980.com. You can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button when you get there. NFL news, Shadur Sanders is going to start the Browns preseason game this weekend against the Panthers. Kenny Pickett's hurt, and they're not going to play Flacco. It looks like Flacco, more likely than not, will be the starting quarterback when the season starts for Cleveland. Jordan Addison in Minnesota suspended 3 games to start the year. This in response to the 2024 DUI that he had. Keenan Allen reunites with the Chargers. I hope they still have number 13 for Keenan Allen, because he, in number 13, whether it was with Herbert or with Rivers, he just looked the part. That's the right uniform for him. What was the other? How about this? No more smelling salts. No more, ammonia. You can't sniff from that. I think you've had it in your updates this morning. The NFL is essentially prohibiting from teams providing ammonia inhalants to players on game days. I mean, how many times do you look down and national anthem's going on and somebody's taking a hit from that? But apparently it masks concussion symptoms, which is why they don't want that happening. And I think I heard in one of your updates, George Kittle is very upset about it in particular. Mm-hmm. And then Jerry Jones was asked about Micah Parsons, and he said, are you?
I have this if you want to hear it.
Yeah, play what Jerry said when he was asked about whether or not he'll have Parsons for the opener against Philadelphia.
All right, let's hear Jerry.
When does it become urgent? I mean, clearly you want him on the field against Philadelphia. When does it become urgent that we need to get something resolved one way or another that he's on the field against Philadelphia?
Again, your definition of urgent is not necessarily. I don't believe you gave a definition of urgent. Okay,
and so when does it get urgent?
So I stay urgent.
Okay. Any confidence that he will be on the field against Philadelphia?
Again, no, absolutely not. That has to. A big part of that is his decision. How would I know that? I'm just saying. No, but I'm urgent.
That's actually, I had not heard that line. I stay urgent, Jerry Jones. He said, though, that he's not, no, absolutely not, when he was asked if he's confident Parsons will play in that, Thursday night NFL kickoff game in Philadelphia between the Cowboys and the Skins. And then there was another quote that he had at one point during that. He said, look, what it is what it is. It was kind of a head shaker, like, okay, but how about changing the what it is? The Cowboys have not come out on the better end of the, waiting it out situations. That's for sure. Look, I think Dak and CeeDee Lamb are, players that they had to sign. Micah Parsons is an absolute have to sign, unless there's something there that we're missing with Micah Parsons. And I've always wondered whether or not there is something there with respect to this player that we're missing in terms of the intangible side. But there would be a line out the door if he became available. And by the way, that's not a 3rd rounder for Terry McLaurin or a 4th rounder. That's 2 firsts. That's where you start with Parsons. And no, they're not trading him to Washington. They're not trading him, period. But they would have plenty of opportunities to keep him out of the division. All right, 301-230-0980 phone lines are packed for where are you now? We are 2 weeks removed from asking this same question. Whose side are you on, Team Terry or Team Front Office? 2 weeks ago, it was a 50-50 on social media answer. Now it's 71-29 Team Front Office on social media. The calls have skewed, I think, a little bit more in Team Terry's direction. But where are you? I'm still Team Front Office. I'm on board with Adam Peters and Newmark and Brandon Sauce and all these people. I think that they're, I'm not telling you we got the best front office in the league, but, and I know part of it is comparing it to what it was, but I think these guys are sharp, and I think they know the player, and I think they know what it should be. And I don't think they can, they're certainly not going to succumb to fans that think he should get paid like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Okay, that's just stupid. That's not who Terry is. Okay, he's never been that, and he's not going to be that. These are two already, elite level receivers. Jefferson's already in his career headed towards the Hall of Fame. That's not that much of an exaggeration. I know it's been for Jefferson. He's going into his 5th year or 6th year? 5th year, probably. He's one of the greatest route runners I think I've ever watched. And Chase, as a guy with the ball in his hands, might be as good as anybody. We have two outstanding, elite level, Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers in the league at the top. And then Tyreek Hill is certainly going to end up in Canton one day. He's 30, and can be a bit of a problem. You've got an elite level group that Terry's just not in. But I want him back, and I want him back on an extension. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 28 to 30. Okay, I'll split the difference, $29 million a year and 60 guaranteed. Something like that. Bones has been on hold the longest. Let's go to him. Thank you, Bones. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, shout out to my man, Matt.
Yep.
Shout out to my main man, Little, and shout out to Lap. Hey, Kevin, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, straight up, man, I'm like burnt out now, right? I feel as though the vibe is messed up with the team, with this Terry and management thing going on, and I'm like burnt out because I done played the tape back, man. I done seen some dominant receivers in this league, man. We got some real dominant receivers in this league, man, that take over games, man. I'm talking about, people like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown. These guys, I done seen these guys take over games, man. 10, 11, 12 catches a game, stuff like that, man. Terry is good, but Terry, you understand, is not one of them. He is not one of them. So for him to be holding out, man, for more than what they possibly could be offering him, man, that's like, that's an atrocious, man. That's atrocity right there, man. I'm like, come on, Terry, man. I love you and all that, man, and I understand what you went through and everything. But, man, come on, man, let's be real. Let's be real. I have not seen you dominate games back to back to back to back, man. Teams don't prepare for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
come on, man. We got a young quarterback, man. Come on, man. I need that vibe to be back in place, man. Yeah. Put that vibe back in place.
When the vibe will be back in place, either the contract gets done or the Giants are 4 days away on opening day, and that's where our focus will be. I promise you, when we get to week 1, he's going to be playing for Washington, and we're going to be dialed in on the Giants in the regular season. This happens this time of year. Thanks for the call, Bones. Look, it's not an atrocity, thankfully. But Terry he's an excellent route runner. He has excellent hands. He's an excellent contested catch guy. He has really good speed. And he's a really good receiver. But he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not Tyreek Hill. He's not A.J. Brown. He's not Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't think. The CeeDee Lamb thing, there's something about CeeDee Lamb that I've just never he's great. You can force feed CeeDee Lamb. You can target him 15 times a game. There's something about CeeDee Lamb that have you ever seen him look happy? And I don't know if he's conducive to winning. Malik Neighbors, come on. After one season, wasn't it obvious? Over 100 catches, 1,200 yards as a rookie with literally nobody throwing him the ball. Nico Collins is a star. Mike Evans still is a star. Garrett Wilson's going to be awesome. Puka Nacua, gimme him. But then when you get to Higgins and Metcalf to a certain degree, and Ayuk and Devontae Smith and DJ Moore, Metcalf is a different breed physically, but Terry's ahead. Terry's somewhere in tier 2. If tier 2 has like 8 or 9 guys in it. If tier 2's only got 2 or 3 guys in it, he's somewhere in tier 3 and probably, again, he's the 10th, 11th, 12th best receiver. And on the ESPN list, where is that list that they did a couple of weeks ago? He ended up being the first in the honorable mention, did not make the top 10. So basically the 11th best receiver. Here it is. They had in front of him Chase, Jefferson, Hill, Lamb, Brown, AJ, Amon-Ra, Neighbors, Collins, Evans, Garrett Wilson. And then the honorable mentions were Terry, Nakua, Metcalf, Higgins, Devontae Adams, Brian Thomas Jr. And then the also receiving votes were Devontae Smith, Ladd McConkey, Smith Najigba, Jamison Williams, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, George Pickens, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, and Cortland Sutton. So, yeah, somewhere around in that 10 to 12, 13 range. Let's go to Billy and Chantilly. Billy, Team Terry or Team Front Office? Go ahead.
Kevin, do you have any good morning position on the smelling salts for the callers? As you know, I usually partake before my calls, so just wondering if the organization, your organization, feels any differently than the NFL.
Absolutely a can do. We have not even considered prohibiting smelling salts before the call is accepted. So do what you normally do, because it does provide you typically with a bolt of energy.
Yeah, and some dizziness.
It just doesn't clear your
know.
head as much as I'd like to see it.
Yeah, well, the dizziness is that's permanent. Look, Terry's underpaid, but he should be in camp. He played his best football in the playoffs, and that's what if I'm Adam, that's what I'm thinking about. I saw a guy who was maybe not a number one all year long, but in the playoffs, he looked like a number one to me, dude. 20 catches, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns in those playoff games. He was their best receiver without a doubt.
Yep.
Terry's
he was their best receiver all year.
Was number one all year. Terry's agent obviously over his head. The messaging on his part has just been a mess. And Adam has just bungled this. I mean, I don't know how you missed the number one receiver for a rookie quarterback who was the best rookie quarterback of the NFL and not say he's making half of what the rest of the league is making.
No, he's not.
And let's get him $15 million for a top tier receiver.
Well,
is about
his
half
cap number is 22, just so you know, and that's essentially how it played out over 3 years. It's just the cash component of it. It has about 15 plus a roster bonus of like 2 point something, so 17 left. But in terms of his average, in terms of what his average is, it's 20. It's 22 something. Top 15 still in the league.
I respect your opinion, your point of view. I'm a big fan of the show, as you know, for a long time. If you're the GM of this team going into what you came out of with Ron, with Dan, what you've come into, the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, and his number one receiver not being signed going into year 2, you haven't sold out the whole season. You need to get the fan base rallied behind this team. This is not the end of the world. It's so stupid. It's beyond belief. It's watching like 2 cars from 100 miles apart speed toward each other when we're supposed to be transforming the organization, the fan base, and football team. It's not the end of the world. It's just super frustrating.
Billy,
what?
You called Jaden Daniels the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, right?
Yeah, I just did. Yeah.
So why are you so dialed in on who his receivers are? I mean, Pat Mahomes made another Super Bowl last year without a receiver. Josh Allen without a receiver made the AFC Championship game. If he's better than both of those guys, why aren't you confident that, with Terry on the last year of his deal and with Noah Brown and everybody else, that the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, as you've referred to Jaden already, won't elevate everybody? I mean, hell, the guy Bill's going to rush for 1,500 yards this year with Jaden at quarterback.
He was the greatest quarterback in the history, going to be the greatest quarterback in the history.
Why are you bent out of shape out of how they're handling Terry? They know it too. They agree with you. They could put you out there, I'm sure they feel, with the greatest quarterback that's ever lived.
I'm not ready to see him without Terry.
I'm not either.
I want to go to the Super Bowl. Do you?
Pat Mahomes has been to the Super Bowl. Was in the Super Bowl last year, and we got a better quarterback, according to you.
He is unbelievable, isn't he, this quarterback?
Yeah, he is. See ya.
Yeah.
I got to run. Dominic in Tampa. Team Terry or team front office?
Kevin, I don't know if I could top that Billy's call there. My goodness. I mean, we might as well just put him
He
give
needed
him
a
his
couple of
jacket
hits
right now.
Yeah.
My goodness. But for me, my stance has never changed. I've been always team front office on this whole situation. And because, one, and you kind of talked about it earlier, is I don't think the offense is going to be if this team does win a Super Bowl, it's not going to be because of the offense. It's going to be because of this defense. And if the defense plays, and all, from what we've been hearing in training camp, they look really good. But, again, you have to watch the game to see it. But I'm just not I'm not giving Terry more than $30 million, number one. And two, if you can't come to an agreement, just let him play out his contract. That's where the leverage of the team goes. And, I do trust his front office. If, and I'm saying if here, Kevin, if God forbid this guy ends up leaving via free agency, I trust that this team, if we are a destination like people are calling us, every receiver is going to want to line to play with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
So,
they're not going to have a problem attracting, players moving forward. Look, Von Miller had some choices. It's going to be a better situation than Von Miller. I'm not saying that all of them are going to be 36-year-old veterans, but yeah, no, I get it. I'm with you. But look, we're getting off track here. And nobody, I don't think, believes that this team would be better off without Terry. I don't. I certainly don't. I want Terry. And there are situations in which it could become, I don't think before a regular season, game is played, but if he were to hold out a regular season game or two, imagine if they really sputtered offensively and the receiver group was uninspiring. I want him out there. I want him out there. I just don't want the team paying for culture, paying for, locker room harmony. I think that that's BS. I think players are into their own situations. I want them being fiscally responsible, but at the same time, recognizing what Terry brings beyond what he brings on the field. But I personally, I've said this before, I think the bottom line is they're going to be a good team this coming season with him on an extension or with him playing his final year of the deal. I think they're going to be a good offensive team. As long as Five's on the field, they're in good shape. Stay on hold. We'll take a few more. You guys keep coming with some good calls. And I do want to get to something that Joe Witt Jr. said the other day that I did not have a chance to comment on yesterday. I meant to. He kind of talked about what went wrong last year. It's the first time we've heard that from him. So you'll hear that before the end of the show. We'll update you on what's going on in Foxboro as both teams right now joint practicing. If they continue, we'll probably not get Ben because he's there and he's working, but hopefully we can get him on before the end of the show. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. This from Jedi 5. Really, Kev? Hard not to see this as an intentionally divisive poll. Put out a Twitter poll, second time in 2 weeks. Whose side are you on? Team Terry or Team Front Office? Team Front Office now, it's 71% to 29%. That's different than where we were 2 weeks ago at 50-50. And then he writes, most of us are Team Washington, a.k.a. both Front Office and Terry. And most want the best for both sides. It's guys like you that put out 1-minute clips with a hot take for clicks that amplify things and sway normies into picking sides. Yeah, I wish this were a 1-minute clip. I wish I could get paid for just 1-minute clips. But no, I'm here 3 hours pretty much every day and then another hour and a half on a podcast. I mean, grow up, seriously. I mean, how childish. If you're looking for cheerleader shows or places, there are places for that. And I'm sure you call Max and he'll recommend some of those. This isn't what we're doing. This is the most obvious question that can be asked right now. And by the way, I'm Team Terry and Team Front Office too. But it's about, who you're leaning, right now in terms of who you're siding with in this, what is a standoff between team and player. That's funny. That's a good one. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Steve in Columbia. Steve, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? You just said something which I thought was interesting in that you're actually for both. I'm Team Terry. And it amazes me.
Well, let me be clear. I am in terms of whose side and who I think, is in the right now. I'm leaning and have been Team Front Office. But in terms of how I want it resolved, I want Terry to get a long-term deal, and I want it to be a fair deal for both Terry and the team. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Kevin.
Sure.
So if Terry's not playing for this team, do you think this team made the playoffs last year?
Yes.
And going forward, is there anybody on this team who could replace his production?
Hold on. You heard my answer to the first question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so yes. Is there anybody that can replace his production? I think that's a different question than replacing what he brings. The answer to would be no to replacing what he brings. His production, 82 catches for 1,096 yards. Yeah, I think there's a possibility somebody could replace that production with Jaden Daniels.
Well, I disagree with you there. There too, because no one has demonstrated that. And then lastly, let me just say this.
Well, he was the number one receiver. Nobody's had that opportunity.
Hold up. We talk about all these stupid lists and tiers and all this stuff. On this team, he's tier 1. Let's not forget that. He's tier 1. Also, of all these guys,
different conversation.
So great,
I agree with you.
He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't get hurt either. Okay.
Right.
That stands for something. So let's be real, man. For this team, they need him to play. Period.
I agree.
Period. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Tom in Shelbyville. Tom, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm 100% Team Front Office, unwavering from day one. I think this is a classic learning point of leverage in the business world. And I also say this: how many jobs of all your callers calling in where you can come in, say you yourself, Rooster, the Junkies, and you want a new contract for next year while you're under contract, and decide to come in, but you're not going to work. I think this hold-in is doing him and his representation a huge disservice, and I think the league needs to address how they handle that down the road.
Well, they have addressed it in the form of, you're saying address the hold-in? Yeah, because they basically, with the last CBA, made it impossible for teams to forgive the fines, which was happening a lot with holdouts. Look, holdouts in sports, because careers are so short, the opportunity to make a lot of money is much different than it is for most people. Jobs are different, situations are different. He is under contract, that's true, but it's actually beneficial for both parties to be talking about a contract extension right now.
I agree, but I think the other point of this is, and I called in a couple of weeks ago, and
this regime is 100% emotionally removed from whatever Terry did in the past.
Yeah.
Terry is a huge want. He's not a need. And I believe these guys have the confidence in their system where they believe that they can plug players in with what they believe is a top-tier quarterback and execute what they need to get done. And I think that you add that to the leverage. And like I said, these guys are precise and work with great precision. And I think this is a huge learning point as far as what leverage means in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's true. They've got pretty much all of it. I think Terry had some of that emotional leverage for a while, but I don't know that he has it right now.
No.
But yeah, no, I'm with you on almost all of it, with one exception, and that is, sports holdouts. It happens every year, and it happens because players have especially in football, super short careers, and their opportunities to pounce on, an opportunity contractually are few and far between. Terry's doing the right thing with respect to trying to get a new contract, even with 1 year left on his current contract. The team also has an incentive to, talk new contract with him as well. And that's what they've been doing to a certain degree, but they're just far apart. It happens in business. And I also think, Tom, you hit on something, and I've alluded to it. I do think that there is a belief in that building that with that quarterback and with that coordinator, that they can be a pretty damn good team, even if he's on the last year of his deal, even if he has to play next year on a franchise tag, and if they potentially lose him in 2027. I don't think they have great fear over that. He's going to play this year. And then if he's really good again, he's going to play in 2026, even if it's on a tag. I think their fear of 2027 and beyond is minimal. I do.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. 100%.
That gives them more leverage. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Anthony in D.C. Anthony, go ahead.
So if we didn't have the year that we had last year, I would be indifferent. But I'm Team Terry. And as one of the callers said before, he's our number one. Let me throw out some blasts from the past to give people a reminder. Raw Gardner, Donarian McCants, Taylor Jacobs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I get
Josh Dotson.
Right.
Right. So don't tell me that he doesn't make a difference, just the threat.
He does make a difference. Nobody's saying that.
No, I'm not saying you.
Yeah.
I'm saying all the callers that are like, if he's here, he's here. If he's on, he's on. Remember those days from the past when we didn't have a threat of downfield. We didn't have a threat of a consistent, he's going to get you the first down. Right. We haven't had that since basically the posse on a consistent basis. But yesterday you had a caller that called in and said that he doesn't believe that all the people saying that Terry isn't this or that know what they're talking about. And he said it in so many words, and I agree with him. He's never been given the opportunity to demonstrate that. He said 12 different quarterbacks. Last year, Jaden Daniels was sacked 47 times. He had 148 carries. It was broken down to 75, 74 scrambles versus rushes.
Mm-hmm.
When you were out, was using the 1,200-yard threshold as some kind of litmus test. Don't you think if Jaden Daniels threw the ball around 100 more times, Terry McLaurin wouldn't have passed 1,200 yards? Joe Burrow threw the ball
maybe. Look, I don't need to get into the numbers with Terry to understand his impact. It was significant. He was the third best player, maybe the second best player on the team. You don't want, to lose your second best player on the team, but that's part of this conversation that's gotten a little bit away from us. They're not going to lose him. He's playing this year. He's going to play. By the way, I want to remind everybody that when the 49ers went to that first Super Bowl, which Adam Peters was a part of, they did have Deebo Samuel on the team. Their other receivers were Kendrick Bourne and Emmanuel Sanders. Those were the other receivers. So they had a running game. They could run the you-know-what out of the football with Mostert and with, by the way, Samuel was a big part of that. Garoppolo was the quarterback. So this is a general manager that has had some good receivers, and Debo's more of a weapon. Ayuk, obviously the last few years. But, they're probably valuing the position a bit differently than some of you are as well. Anthony, thanks. Stay on hold, everybody else. I'm going to get to you if I can. Hopefully, we're going to be joined by Ben from Foxboro in this last segment. Want to clear some time for him if he's got time to call in. They are done in Foxboro with their joint practice. And the good news is it looks like everybody's healthy. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, here's what's happening on Wednesday, August 6th. Matt Stafford dealing with an aggravated disc injury. Reports are the Rams are being cautious and holding him out, calling it week to week. The 37-year-old quarterback could still be ready to go for week 1. And following the retirement of Mike Williams in Los Angeles, the Chargers are bringing back the other receiver from their dynamic duo. Keenan Allen is returning to the team following a 1-year stint with the Chicago Bears. The 33-year-old wide receiver worked out with the team on Friday and reunites with his old quarterback, Justin Herbert. George Kittle crashed an NFL Network interview with Fred Warner to air a grievance with the NFL after he found out that the league has banned smelling salts, claiming that the effects from the salts can mask concussion-like symptoms. Kittle is asking to find a middle ground after admitting that he uses them before every drive. And the Nats, they fall to the formerly Oakland A's in a 16-7 blowout. Mackenzie Gore with one of the roughest outings of his season so far, with just 3 innings pitched, not giving up 12 hits and 8 earned runs. The Nats are in a get-right spot tonight. Cade Cavalli is going to make his debut against Jeffrey Springs. First pitch at 6:45 on the Fan. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
maybe rough to get Ben. He's working right now as they've ended the joint practice. Couple of things that have come out. Ben Volen, long time, we've had Ben on the show many times in the past, longtime senior NFL writer at the Boston Globe, tweeted out, Jaden Daniels is absolutely surgical in 11 on 11. Never misses a read. A lot of tweets about how good Laramie Tunsil looked in the 11 on 11. Anyway, just a couple of the things. Let me see if I can find anything else that's come out of this today. You see anything else of note?
Demario Davis.
Skirmishes.
Demario Davis said Mike Vrabel was bleeding after the scrum. He asked him what happened. Vrabel replied, "Hey, you should have seen the other guy." Which Mike's always a crack up. Mike makes me laugh in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I think we've talked about this for several years running when they've had these. These are much more valuable to the teams than the preseason games, because the players that are going to play for these teams in the regular season get much more time in these joint practices than they do in the preseason games. If you missed it earlier, we'll get Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman on Friday night as the two quarterbacks. Jaden won't play, and Marcus Mariota is dealing with a leg strain, so he won't play either. All right, let's keep it going. This is one of those days where, one question, one topic has, carried the show. Team Terry or team front office in terms of this contract standoff? Let's go to Ronnie. Ronnie's been on hold for a while. Ronnie, thanks as always, man.
Hey, peace and love, Kevin.
Peace and love, Ronnie.
One thing, I'm going to qualify my answer. I'm Team Terry at the right price.
Yep.
So I'm not Team Terry at $33 million a year. I'm Team Terry at the right price for him and the organization. But one thing I'm going to vehemently disagree with you. I've been around professional athletes 35, 40 years. I've done security for them, had numerous conversations, and they all worry about money. So when you say that some of his teammates, they worry about money, and they worry about what the next guy gets. And I also say this, I understand that Adam Peters and the owners, they weren't here for what? I mean, they've only been here a year. But when you have a player who's done allegedly everything right and a positive star for the organization, that should come into effect and play.
I think it is.
Because if he was negative,
I can't imagine that they don't recognize Terry as kind of a unique case.
Yeah, and I'm not saying overpay him by a lot, but I'm saying he should get some reward for that.
You and I are in agreement.
This is his last professional contract. He's an independent contractor. Get as much as you can, because when this is over, it's over. And people they fail to realize that. Oh, I'm team organization. The organization is going to make money no matter what. So the player has to have, in my opinion, the same mindset. Now, I understand you have to be reasonable, but they were one game away from, the Super Bowl, which, what's it been, 30-something years? I don't even remember.
Yeah, 33.
And I just want us to go into the season with everything headed north as opposed to some things heading south. And that's just my view on it. But,
no, it's a good view. I want to make sure that we're clear on one thing. Players, of course, care about money. I'm just telling you that once the games start, they care about their situation more. And don't discount the possibility that there's some people who are paying attention to this saying, if that's what he's really asking for, that's too much. I don't think the team should give him that much. But the other thing, too, something you said, I'm with you on, I think there is a premium on this deal because of who Terry is. I think they should pay a bit of a premium. The issue is it a little bit more than $25 million a year? or is it a little bit more than $28 million a year? And is Terry willing to come down from wherever he is? Because the gap, according to everybody, is large. So the little bit of a premium isn't getting to where he's willing to come down to at this point, but I think it'll work out. Thanks, Ronnie, as always. Bobby in North Carolina. Bobby, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. I'm team behind Adam Peters on this situation. You can't let the players dictate this thing. Wouldn't it be fascinating to know what the Skins were offering? We still don't know that. You've been speculating Terry's asking for 32, 33, but, we just don't know. And I feel like in my heart, they're making him a fair offer. I don't think, they're not make him a good offer. But, Kevin, he's going to play. Like you keep saying for days and days and days now. Terry's going to play. He's going to split up week 1. I mean, we hold all the cards, brother. I mean, you talking about playing poker down in Costa Rica last week. I mean, you hold all the cards just like I do, brother. We hold the cards. The team does. Terry's going to play. He ain't going to forfeit game checks because, Kevin, if he does, that's money he's going to never recoup.
Yeah.
You can't recoup all that, okay? So I'm just telling you, just stand your ground. Deadlines make things happen. Terry's going to sign, or he's going to come in and play. You know what I'm saying? It's either or.
I'm with you on that. But the one thing, and it's my guy Paulie that brought this up a while ago. I want him in camp for the majority of it. I don't want a soft tissue. I don't want, some chemistry to be off with Debo there. Like, we have seen that happen a lot, with holdouts. Sometimes it's never right. Like, it never gets right. And I want it to be right. So I'd like it to get done sooner rather than later.
And you're right, I do too. But you know what? All that said, Kevin, I'm excited about Debo and his offense. If he can stay healthy,
Me too.
Debo can play. I'm telling you right now, brother. He's going to be a gadget player in this offense, running the ball, catching the ball. He's the ace in the hole too.
Yeah,
he can
I'm
play.
with you.
And we don't want Terry. I want Terry. We all do. Sooner the better. But Kevin, he'll be there week 1. I have no doubt on that. And he's not going to walk away from game checks. Okay, appreciate you,
Thanks,
brother.
Bobby.
Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Bobby. Let's go to Ken in Dorf. Ken's been on hold for a while. Ken, thanks. Go ahead. Ken, you there? Did we lose Ken? Let's go to CJ in Waldorf. 2 back-to-back Waldorf calls. Go ahead, CJ. CJ.
Vacation as well from the Bahamas. Can you hear me?
Wait, CJ, start over again, man. I missed the first part of it. Go ahead.
Oh, I said, like you, I'm just coming back from vacation last week from the Bahamas. And ironically, I wore my Jaden Daniels shirt. So everyone asked me about the Terry McLaurin situation, all the sports fans there. Kevin, here's the thing. I think I'm definitely Team Terry, and I'm Team Terry for a number of reasons. I'm glad some of the other callers alluded to this in the beginning. Kevin, Jaden Daniels threw for 25 touchdowns last year. Who had the majority of those? Terry did. He had 13. In the playoffs, let's take it further. Jaden threw for 5 touchdowns in the playoffs. Who had the majority of those? Again, Terry for 3. You have to go down to Zacchaeus, who had 3 touchdowns all season for the next wide receiver. Terry's production to this team is pivotal. And I think I agree a little bit with Billy. If I'm trying to win a Super Bowl now, if my window is now, I want Terry in there. I want him at a right price. And I understand where people are coming with that. And I think that's why your poll has been skewed a little bit, because it now depends on what rhetoric do you believe. Do you believe now the rhetoric that's been put out there that he wants, well over 33 or 34? Or do you believe he wants to just hit that 30 mark? That's where I think people are getting a little bit on the side of the team, because they think if they believe that, Terry's asking for a crazy amount.
That's true.
I get that.
And that's just one report. Although Adam Schefter is a pretty damn good reporter. That's why, I think a lot of people probably buy that Terry had a pretty high number, at least to start with. But we don't know where it is now. And we don't know where the team is now. All of that is true, and that's been true throughout these conversations, is we don't know specifically, factually what the team's offered and what Terry's asked for. But we do know at this point the gap's probably pretty large, right? That seems like a fair assumption at this point. I also want to point out
Kevin,
that Zacchaeus had the best year of his career, and Noah Brown was headed for easily the best year of his career. So that's in play with
Kevin,
these
Noah
guys
Brown
too.
had
They're
one
looking around
touchdown.
saying, this guy is elevating everything around him. That's part of it. Let me finish up with Paulie. We're going to miss Ben today, and we'll have him on tomorrow. But Paulie, finish it up. Hail to the W.
Good guy. Hail to the W, man. I'll keep it quick. I know we're short on time and everything. Hey, listen, unless Tiki Barber is in your locker room, I don't think a player is saying he's asking for too much money, man. Regardless if they think it or not. I think it's more or less,
it all depends. Every situation's unique. I guarantee you there are players that have said, man, he's asking for what? I'm not saying they're saying it about Terry. But we've seen some outrageous, demands from players before. Players, they care about money. They want everybody to get theirs, but they follow this stuff. I'm totally with Ronnie on that. But go ahead. Get to your main point.
You can see the team support for Terry. But I'm going to say this. Listen, I think your poll is not skewed, but what it is Terry fatigue. All right, we've been talking about this for 3 weeks. I know you was off chilling for last week, but we've been talking about this for 3 weeks, right? So all you're hearing is Terry press conference, Terry holdout, Terry hold in, Terry ankle, Terry pup, Terry sign an autograph. It's Terry. So
Terry trade request.
Terry
got
trade
the big
request.
one.
So the closer we get to the season, the more us as fans want this situation to be done. And what we see is management, the man, they're not budging. So most fans are like, okay, they're not budging. So Terry just needs to either come and play or he needs to sign what they want to give him. Right now, I'm gonna caution you guys too. And you brought up T. Higgins earlier, and it made me started thinking. Right, what happened with T. Higgins last year? And I also seen the same thing happen with us with Jamison Crowder playing on a 1-year deal. These guys are not gonna play unless they're 100%. T. Higgins missed 5 games last year. And I remember it was like ankle injury, wrist injury. So Terry, he might do play this year on if they don't come to an extension. But I'll tell you what, he's not going to risk his body this year. And that's a key thing, especially when you
T. Higgins was 25 years old last year. Okay, there's a big difference. Terry is running out of time. So I don't see it that way, not to mention the overall differences between the two people.
Terry came in the league at 24. He came in the league at 24. My
I understand
whole point is he's not going to put his body
Does that change his
on
age?
the line on. Listen, he's not going to put his
I gotta run, but I
line.
just want to leave everybody with this. Paulie had one of the best lines in recent years yesterday. Some dude called in and compared basically football to cutting grass. And Paulie said, let me just begin with this. You don't get CTE from cutting grass. I got to go. Back tomorrow, everybody. Chris is next.